Well, good morning, Patriots. Welcome to the 332nd consecutive Friday Assembly of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. Thank you for joining us this morning as we join to demonstrate our support for America's deployed warfighters, all 228,000 of them serving America's interests in 150 countries around the globe. I would hope that you would never forget that R.E.D is an honorable and important mission. Never de-emphasize its importance. Our deployed warriors and their dependents need and deserve our support. What better way to demonstrate that than this Red Friday group through your presence here each and every Friday. So thank you for your patriotism. And thank you for contributing to the mission of Red Friday. You know, some time ago, while serving as my battalion's senior enlisted advisor, the battalion was invited to attend a civilian-sponsored formal celebration of Armed Forces Day. That was to be held at a quite ritzy hotel downtown Dallas, Texas. And Hank and I were really looking forward to attending that event. And at my battalion commander's request, I started making some of the necessary preparations to include having a local print shop produce a quantity of very nice fold-out cards that highlighted our regiment's history, and these cards were to be distributed to all of those in attendance. And unfortunately, the print shop had been running late in completing our order, and they advised me that the job would not be ready for pickup until the morning of our event. So I instructed a specialist fourth class administrative clerk from our S1 section to drive to the print shop and pick up the boxes of imprinted cards to deliver them to the hotel's ballroom. Well, once the specialist arrived, he was hastily running back and forth from his car to the hotel's ballroom, bringing in these boxes of cards. And since he was working under the hotel's exterior overhang, he was not wearing his headgear. And in his haste, he was ignoring those that were just beginning to arrive for the event. Then a butter bar second lieutenant, platoon leader from Bravo Company arrived in his spanking brand new dress blue uniform with his two shiny anodized miniature medals on full display, accompanied by a stunningly beautiful lady on his arm. The lieutenant approached the hotel entrance just as the specialist was running back to his car for another box, not noticing the young lieutenant and his date. And as the specialist grabbed another box from his vehicle, he rushed past the second lieutenant, who said, "Excuse me, specialist, don't we salute officers in our Army?" The specialist promptly replied. He said, "Yes, sir." Dropped his box, came to attention, saluted the young officer, who turned and smiled to his date. Then he said, "And so that you don't forget, specialist, you'll render a proper salute 100 times, and I'll count every one of them." Well, the butter bar stood there with his arms on his side, and Lieutenant didn't realize that his battalion commander and I arrived with our wives and stood there witnessing this whole affair. My battalion commander looked at me with a kind of a smirk on his face, and in his uniformed splendor of 20-plus years of service, stepped up behind the lieutenant and quietly said, "In my Army, we return salutes." And I'll be standing right here counting every one of them. I love that man. He was the absolute best commander I ever served with. You know, that brief encounter proved to be a valuable learning experience for both the lieutenant and the specialist. And it just so happened that that specialist ultimately turned out to be one of the finest NCOs in our entire battalion. And that lieutenant, well, he developed into an extraordinary leader who ultimately rose through the organization to achieve the rank of Major General, retiring from the Texas Army National Guard early last year. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a guest that I would like to recognize. Debbie White. Debbie, will you stand, please? Debbie is a guest of Nancy Fassbender, and Debbie is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution Fountain Hills chapter, correct? So, Debbie, how long have you been involved with the DAR group? You've been with them how long now?
About 8 years.
Hello.
And
8 years. Hello.
So I'm curious, how do DAR members select which chapter they wish to affiliate with?
Usually it's where you live, close to where you live. I belong to 2.
Proximity. You belong to 2
Yeah, because I'm
DAR
part of the
chapters?
Nancy Ward. I'm part of the Nancy Ward.
Well, then there should be absolutely no problem in you being a member of Red Friday as well, right?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm checking it out.
Thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Glad to have you with us.
Hello. Okay.
Now, I do think that somebody brought in something over. They want to introduce, I believe, Theodore Bear. Where's Theodore? Theodore Bear. Is there a Theodore here? Would you raise your hand? Aha! Theodore is a guest of Cindy Wagner, and Theodore resides in Gold Canyon. Theodore was enlisted in the United States Navy. Is that correct, Cindy?
That is correct.
And 2000 to 2025 retired from the Navy.
Yes.
That's absolutely splendid. And the MOS that Teddy happened to be functioning in was as a funny bear. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you for introducing
Dick,
us to Theodore.
he has something he wants to say. He wrote it out on a piece of paper.
Oh, really? May I?
Yes, he did. He said, "My name is Clifford. I am an illegitimate son of Theodore Teddy von Rockmore. I am dropped off looking for my daddy. I don't want to live with him. I am just here to visit and get all the gossip from my dad's friends. I only want to stay with each of you for a couple of days. I love to travel. Please post on Facebook, then drop me off at another party with your new friends. I like to have fun. Thank you."
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So let me ask, I know that we're starting to get some of our winter visitors back into the valley now. If you have just recently returned as a winter visitor, can you stand a second? Let's see how many we're having start to come back now. One only? I know that we had a couple in here last week. You're by your lonesome already, bro. And also, I want to welcome back Tom Connor. Tom has been absent for a little while, and we're absolutely elated to have you back with us, Tom. Good to see you. Can I have a ooh-ah for our first-time guest over here? Ooh-ah. Thank you. You know, one of the things that I really enjoy about these Friday assemblies is that they offer us a forum for us to recognize our members and guests who have staunchly supported our East Valley Red Friday program, and not only by their attendance or volunteering to join us as a guest speaker or by their promotion of our Red Friday program, or even by offering to assist wherever and whenever they might possibly have an opportunity to volunteer their service. They contribute to this program, and it's as a result that this program has grown and has been extraordinarily successful. So that said, I would like for Richard and Jim, would you come here, please? Come here one moment, Richard and Jim. I would like for the following people, please, to stand. Liz Ramsey, Ron Fagerlin, Mike Thompson, Bob Williams, and Hank Nations. On behalf of this Red Friday group, we want to thank each of you for your devout support, and we wish to present each of you with this Red Friday lapel pin as a memento of our appreciation for your ongoing support. Jim has it then. May I have a hoo-ah for these folks? Thank you for your tremendous support. I'm saddened to report that a member of our Red Friday Patriots group has recently passed away. Bill Sheedy was a Mesa resident and a dedicated Red Friday member who joined our Red assemblies years ago and continued to support our Red program with his presence up until a little more than a year ago when ongoing health and mobility issues prevented his participation with our group. And prior to his death, Bill moved back to his home state of Washington, where he had a long career as a firefighter. Bill honorably served our country as an 11 Bravo infantryman in the United States Army from 1959 to 1965. 2 years of his service was at Fort Davis in the Panama Canal Zone. I'd like to take this moment and have you view a brief in memoriam for Bill Sheedy.
I saw the light fade from the sky. On the wind I heard a sigh. As the snowflakes cover my fallen brothers, I will say this last goodbye.
Rest in peace, brother. You know, as we're all aware, the United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps will soon celebrate their 250th anniversary, honoring their shared founding in 1775 during the American Revolution. And as you might expect, major celebrations are planned, with Philadelphia being the birthplace of both services, serving as the hub for the main festivities. As we look back on the founding of these phenomenal branches, we find that the origins of both services are closely linked to the early days of the American Revolution. On October 13th, 1775, the Second Continental Congress authorized the outfitting of the first two Continental Navy vessels, creating the Continental Navy. Less than a month later, on November 10, 1775, the Second Continental Congress passed a resolution to raise 2 battalions of Marines. This year, 2025, has been designated as a year-long celebration of these 2 extraordinary branches of service. The kickoff was officially announced on December 11 last year, 2024, by Marine Corps leaders. And in January 2025, Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro spoke at an event emphasizing the Navy's enduring legacy of service and commitment. And to commemorate the anniversary, even the United States Postal Service made a contribution last May by unveiling a commemorative stamp featuring the iconic eagle, globe, and anchor to honor the Marine Corps' 250th birthday. The Navy's birthday is October 13, 1775, and there are a variety of main events scheduled in celebration of the Navy's anniversary, to include the Navy's 250th celebration in Philadelphia, which began yesterday, October 9, and will continue through October 16. And that particular event will feature a flotilla of military ships sailing down the Delaware River, air shows featuring the Navy's Blue Angels, an all-veterans reunion picnic, and the Navy's 250th Gala at the National Constitution Center, a state-of-the-art museum dedicated to the study of the United States Constitution. It's interesting to note that the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia is located at 525 Arch Street, an address chosen because May 25, 525, was the date that the Constitutional Convention began in Philadelphia. The official birthday of the Marine Corps is November 10, and the Marine Corps' 250th celebration will also take place in Philadelphia during the period November 7 through 11. Some of the events will include a combined Navy and Marine Corps parade, and the Marine Corps has already hosted Marine Weeks in several cities, including Nashville in June, Chicago in July, Boston in August, and Atlanta in August. Also, for the month of October, there are tours scheduled at Laurel Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia to highlight notable Navy and Marine Corps members. And the Marine Corps has already been hosting traditional birthday balls at various locations, including Joint Base Meyer, Henderson Hall in Arlington. The celebration for the Navy and Marine Corps' 250th anniversaries will continue until and through 2026 as part of the nation's broader semi-quincentennial celebration. And an international naval review featuring a parade of naval ships from around the world will be a final highlight of the commemorative period. Please be advised that our East Valley Red Friday Patriots group will join in the celebration for both the Navy and the Marine Corps. We have scheduled representatives from both branches to deliver presentations at our upcoming assemblies. Next Friday, October 17, we have a retired U.S. Navy veteran scheduled. And on Friday, November 7, we have a United States Marine Corps veteran scheduled as guest speakers. So we sincerely hope that you will be in attendance at those particular events, and we encourage you to bring a neighbor or a friend. Last week, Sean Snyder, the Central Region Manager, Veteran Service Division of the Arizona Department of Veteran Services, joined us as our guest speaker. Sean highlighted the numerous state and federal benefits that he and his Veterans Benefits counselors assist qualified veterans in pursuing. And as we learned from Sean, there are a host of veteran benefits that are active duty service members for our veterans, their veteran spouses, and family members that all of these folks need to be aware of. Countless benefits that maybe you've just overlooked or were totally unaware of. Well, today, Sean's boss has joined us to provide an overview of the entire department and how it serves the Arizona veteran population. John Scott leads the entire Arizona Department of Veteran Services, consisting of more than 400 employees. And he comes to the table with some quite impressive credentials and experience to take on that challenge. You see, John understands veterans. He's a United States Marine Corps veteran who served during the 4-year period of 1999 to 2003 as a Sergeant E5 Section Chief for a M198 towed howitzer artillery crew consisting of 9 enlisted crewmen. He is the third generation of his family to serve in the United States military, something anyone can be proud of. John graduated from UCLA University of California, Los Angeles, with a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology. And hoping to make a greater impact on the veteran community, John went back to college and graduated cum laude from California State University, Long Beach, earning a master's degree in social work. He delivers more than 24 years of service working with active duty military and veteran populations, to include more than 7 years of experience in nonprofit administration. And in addition to his administrative background, he served 2 years supervising Master of Social Work interns from Arizona State University, and 1 year providing individual therapy for the Veterans Administration at the PTSD Clinic in Long Beach, California, for veterans of Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation New Dawn. John also worked for Santa Monica College in the Veterans Resource Center, administering federal grant funding for improvement of post-secondary education, centers of excellence for veteran student success. Prior to his work at Arizona Department of Veteran Services, John was the executive director for the U.S. Vets Phoenix. He served in that capacity for 3 years, where he was responsible for housing, counseling, rehabilitation, and employing homeless veterans throughout Maricopa County. And from 2014 to 2015, John served as the commissioner for both the Arizona Veteran Service Advisory Commission as well as the Military Veterans Commission for the City of Phoenix. John launched his career with the Arizona Department of Veteran Services in 2015, 10 years ago. And upon joining the department, his role began as the Assistant Deputy Director, then Deputy Director, and in April this year, 2025, the State of Arizona Senate unanimously voted to confirm John Scott's nomination, solidifying his role as Director of the Arizona Department of Veteran Services. Now, as Director, his top priorities include addressing veteran homelessness, delivering resources and support to rural and tribal communities, and traveling the state to highlight the accomplishments of veterans and veteran-serving organizations, a much-needed charter for Arizona vets. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome for Director John Scott.
How's everybody doing? Good. I apologize for being late. I had 2 kids, my wife, 2 dogs, and a cat sleeping in my bed last night. And after the power cut off, I missed my Reveille machine. So I apologize. But I'm here, and thank you for the warm welcome and the kind introduction. I really appreciate it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the department that I run. So currently we've got about 440 employees. Our max is actually right around 715. And so when we look at why is there the disparity, it's really in our homes. That's where the majority of our employees reside. And in Flagstaff, we're currently building up our team there. So that's where you'll see some of the occupancy. But we work in strong conjunction with our federal partners, namely the VA. And that comes in the form of a lot of grants and reimbursements. Most of you probably don't know, but about 85% of our budget actually comes from the feds. We receive about $11 million in general funding from the state. So we're really good return on investment. So our mission is we're committed to serving and honoring veterans and service members and their families by ensuring that they receive the highest quality services so that they can thrive for a lifetime. And I'll highlight some of those services for you here today. So let's talk about some of our programs that we have. So most of you are aware of like our veteran benefit counselors, our cemeteries, our state veteran homes, but we also have a lot of financial assistance programs. So some of those are our Military Family Relief Fund. So that's for post and pre-9/11 veterans who have a form of disability that they incurred as a result of their military service and had deployed. And so individuals who are behind on rent, their mortgage, their electric bill, they're having issues with their AC, they're having car troubles, all sorts of things that we can help to assist them along their way to make sure that they are successful. A subset of that program is called our Transition in Place program, and that's for veterans who need a little bit longer care. So this would be an individual who's likely we encountered that was homeless, who have been struggling with substance abuse, those types of things. And it's a more structured, rigid program, more like a transitional housing program where they have individual case management. And gradually over time, we start to take out some of the subsidy for their housing until they're capable of paying it completely on their own and make that successful transition. We also have the Arizona Veterans Donation Fund. So all of those lovely veteran plates that I saw as I was driving into the post, thank you very much. Those plates are what fund our Veterans Donation Fund. And it is a fantastic fund because it's my way to give you all money to do the good work that we need to do here in Arizona to take care of our veterans. So throughout the year, we have something called our small VDF cycle. Those are grants that are less than $5,000. And so those can be applied for year-round. And it can be for things like you want to host like a stand-up event at your post, or you want to be able to provide immediate cash services to individuals within the Apache Junction community. Those are all grants that we really like being able to give out because, frankly, you guys know your community a lot better than I do. And you know the people within your community, you know the resources within your community, and you know how to spend the money. And I will tell you the other thing, you guys are a lot quicker at spending the money than the state is being able to turn a check around. You'd be surprised how many steps you have to go through just to get a check cut. So when there's an absolute emergent need and somebody shows up on a Friday at 5 o'clock and says, hey, I'm homeless, what do I do? You guys can solve that problem expeditiously. It takes us more time. So be thinking about that for the future. In addition to that, we also have what we call our large grant cycle. Our large grant cycle typically is solicited somewhere around November, with awards happening in December, and usually our first disbursement comes out like January or February. Those grants this year are going to go up to $150,000. So these are much larger projects that folks take on in our community. Some examples would be providing housing for homeless veterans, providing legal services for veterans, all sorts of things. So if it's a direct service and benefit to the veteran, be thinking about that because there may be some ways that the post can utilize that money in a way that's going to be beneficial to the veterans here in your community. This year, I've pledged to grant out $2 million. So it's going to be quite a bit of money that we grant out to our community partners across the state. We have our Minority Veterans Program, and I'm happy to announce that for the first time, our agency will actually be hiring a female veteran coordinator, a statewide female veteran coordinator. We're in the process of putting that position description together, and I'm hoping to have that person on the ground here within the next couple of months. That's going to be extremely important for our veterans throughout the state. Female veterans are the highest and fastest growing population within our veteran community, and they also have unique needs that, frankly, over the last 20 years, it was hard to even get them met, even at the VA hospital. And so we know that there are things that we could be doing better. That's one area that we can do better. You can look forward to seeing women expos and things like that coming up here in the next, 5 to 6 months. Let's see, we also have the Staff Sergeant Fox grant. That is a suicide prevention grant that we received from the VA. And our full goal there is to be able to interview people to find out whether or not they're in a form of crisis or getting close to crisis, to be able to make a very quick intervention to get them away from the point where they're actually in the red, in crisis, and are contemplating suicide. One of the interesting things that we found is that even within our own veteran homes, we had never thought to actually interview this way because most of the folks that our veterans work with within those homes are people they interact with every day. And sometimes they're not as open about how they're feeling, as opposed to somebody new coming in and asking them questions about how they feel, what do they think about their future. And what we found is actually we caught a higher percentage of individuals who were triggering for depression that we were unaware of, that we were able to treat even within our own facilities. But I will tell you, suicide prevention is a multifaceted intervention, and it requires every single one of you to care for each other, to do buddy checks. Those are some of the most important things. When people get to that 99, 100% threshold of crisis, it's very difficult to walk them down. But if we can stop them from getting to that point in the first place, our chances of making sure that our battle buddy is there are escalated tremendously. We have our action plan to end homelessness. So over this last legislative cycle, Governor Hobbs announced the Homes for Heroes initiative. Has anybody heard of that? Okay, good. So we got some hands up. So the initial program was $750,000 to seed emergent needs for homeless veterans. So that grant was actually solicited. We had 14 applications that we received, and right now we're going through the review process to be able to grant out that money. What I'm looking at, having some experience working in the homeless world, is what are the ways that we can affect novel changes and address the gaps that we see in homelessness. So some examples are a veteran comes to a homeless service provider with a family, and the homeless service provider is only able to provide housing for the male in the family. Where does the rest of the family go? Or I've had a dog for the last 15 years. This dog hasn't left my side, and you're telling me that I can't get housing because I have a pet. Well, I'm not going into your housing without my pet. That should not be a barrier to somebody obtaining housing. Somebody who is extremely addicted to opiates or opioids, and they need to do a medical detox, but we don't have that to offer to them. And they decide, well, I'm not going to go because I'm not going to go through the pain of detox. That shouldn't be a deterrent. And so that's what this funding was projected to do, and that's what we're hoping to do, is be able to address those gaps that are preventing people from engaging with these services so that they can become stably housed and be a productive member of our society. Let's see here. So veterans benefit counselors. We have 60 veteran benefit counselors. Does everybody know what a veteran benefit counselor is? Seeing some hands, seeing some. So our veteran benefit counselors, traditionally they're referred to as veteran service officers. So they are individuals who are accredited. We are duly accredited with the American Legion and the Veterans Administration, Veteran Affairs. And they represent our veterans as their power of attorney representing claims before the VA. So we don't just do disability claims, we do pensions, we do dependency indemnity compensation, which is for the spouse. We assist people with their GI Bill benefits, with voc rehab. Basically any federal benefit or entitlement we can assist with. And as we work with our veterans, one of the things that we also do is we represent them before the Board of Veteran Appeals, and we even have legal representation up in DC, where we can represent the veteran if they so choose to appeal their court all the way up to the Court of Veteran Appeals. We can represent them at no charge at all, so that we can ensure that they're getting the benefits that they receive. We are not a claim shark agency. We do not charge a penny for anything that we do, and we're pretty good at what we do. Of the 60 veteran benefit counselors, how much money do you think we bring in 1 month to Arizona veterans in this state? Any idea? Close. We just met the $102 million threshold. 1 month. So we are on track to do $1.2 billion in claims over the course of the next year. That's all money that's coming back into our Arizona communities to ensure that our veterans are taken care of. Why is that important? Well, of the close to 450,000 veterans that we have in our state, over half of them are the age of 65 or older. And so as our veterans age and they start to look for things like skilled nursing facilities, those type of things, it's important that we get their service connection up. And I say that because if you're 70% service connected or higher and you want to go into one of our skilled nursing facilities, it's free of charge. There's no charge whatsoever, and you get to keep your disability benefits. So that's super important for our folks. So if that's something that you're thinking about now, maybe you're 50%, 60%, be thinking about doing that upgrade and getting your rating up, because in the future, we're all going to need a little bit of help before it's our time to go. And it's important that you have all your ducks in a row before you get to that point, because we all know that the VA can take some time to adjudicate those claims. One of the little known things about what we do is our state approving agency. So everyone knows about the GI Bill and the ability for veterans to use their GI Bill at schools across the state, whether they be trade schools, ASU, NAU, you name it. But who's the folks that go behind to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're not fraudulently preying on our veterans? Well, that's our state approving agency. A fantastic team of five people I have to canvass the entire state to make sure that our colleges, community colleges, and trade schools are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then, of course, our state veteran homes. So we have 4 veteran homes. We've got one in Tucson, we've got one in Phoenix, we've got one in Yuma, and we've got one in Flagstaff. I'm happy to say that in Phoenix a couple years back, I had made the decision that we were going to take those 2-person rooms and make them 1-person rooms. And so now if you were to visit the Phoenix skilled nursing facility, you would notice that all the rooms are single occupancy rooms. And I'm also happy to say that we are completely full. COVID was really, really rough for us. During that time, we did a fantastic job of mitigating COVID. We had very minimal veterans that passed away that had COVID. I think our total was 17. However, during that COVID process, we weren't allowed to admit residents into our facility. And so we saw our census come from here, way down to here. And that buildup has been difficult for a couple of reasons. One, congregate settings with COVID, people kind of are a little squeamish about. 2, nursing. Our state is one of the worst states for nursing in the United States of America. we have a huge shortage of nurses. Compiled with the fact that they didn't want to work in COVID units, it made it even more difficult. To the point where we actually had to do a lottery to figure out who was going to have to work our COVID units. And unfortunately, we had a lot of staff that just decided this wasn't for them anymore. They were going to go on to pursue other occupations. We're starting to see an uptick, which is great. Our censuses are actually building, which is great. And right now, our big focus is on Flagstaff. We currently have 12 residents there in Flagstaff. I need to get another 8 to get us to 20, which then allows the VA to come in, do their inspection of our facility. Once they give us the thumbs up, then we can start billing, and now we become profitable, which is required by state statute. That facility is an 80-bed facility. Our Yuma is an 80-bed facility as well. Phoenix is now 102 beds, and then in Tucson, it's 120 beds. We have our veteran memorial cemeteries. So we have 3 of those, our oldest being in Sierra Vista, that also has a historic soldiers component to it, which is pretty neat if you ever get an opportunity to go down there and have a look at it. It is one of the top-rated cemeteries by the National Cemetery Administration. We got the top score you can get. That's not done very much, so big kudos to our team down there. We also have a cemetery in Marana, which is our busiest cemetery. We get a lot of folks from the Tucson area that decide to be interred there. And one of the things that you'll notice about our cemeteries as opposed to the National Cemetery is we have grass, we have trees, it's not just rock. So for us, we wanted to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible so that anytime somebody comes to that cemetery, they're full of tranquility and peace and serenity. And then our final cemetery is up in Belmont, which is, we're actually on the base at Camp Navajo. And that is another beautiful cemetery overlooking the Santa Fe's. It's just absolutely beautiful. So if you get an opportunity or you ever like to visit, please just let us know and we're happy to arrange that. So some of the other things that we do, so we have the Veteran Toolkit. When I started many years ago now, one of the things that we heard was that veterans were able to get jobs, but they didn't have the necessary tools for them to start their job. So that could be, hey, I need to put an alternator in my truck so I can get to work. Or, hey, I just got a job as a construction worker, but I need tools and I don't have those tools because I just pawned all of them so that I could pay my rent. These were all burdens to the individuals, and these were obstacles that were preventing them from getting to work. And we said, well, my God, why can't we just figure out a way that we can get them what they need so that they can get to work? And that was the genesis of the Veteran Toolkit. So we work very closely with our partners over at DES, our DevOps and our Leavers. And as they're working with veterans to help them obtain employment, we make sure that we remove that barrier for them as they move forward with their career. We have our Gold Star Military Medal as a medal that's presented to the widow of a spouse who served in the military. So that one is, I think, a very underused program. So if you know folks that have not received the Gold Star Medal that should have a Gold Star Medal, please let us know. Typically what we'll do is like a private ceremony for that individual in their home, but if they would like to come to the Capitol, we can do one in our office as well. And then our action plan to end homelessness. So the second part of Homes for Heroes is that Governor Hobbs wants a plan for us to be able to end veteran homelessness within 10 years. I said, ma'am, respectfully, I think we can do it in less than 10 years. So that's our goal. But that is going to require a lot of coordination. And I'm going to need your guys' help with this one. We're very akin to the different resources that are available federally and statewide for our veterans in the state of Arizona. But there are so many more resources that are provided to veterans that we just don't know about. And you guys probably provide a lot of them for the veterans that are in the community. It could be a meal, it could be gas in their gas tank so that they can get to work or their VA appointment, all sorts of little things. But what we need to do is to understand what are those resources, compile those resources so that when a veteran or a spouse or a loved one or just somebody who engages with a veteran finds himself in a position where they don't know how to help, they can call our number 1-866-4AZ-VETS and be linked with the resource in the community that they live in. Once I get a good idea of what all the resources are throughout the state, then I'm able to do a good gaps analysis to figure out where do we need to allocate monies so that we can continue to reduce and end veteran homelessness within the state. Now, when I talk about ending veteran homelessness, I typically get pushback because people say, well, you're never going to end veteran homelessness. Veterans are going to turn up homeless That's just a reality of life. And while I don't disagree with you, because there are things that can precipitate homelessness and somebody can find themselves in that position pretty quickly, what we can affirm ourselves to is ensuring that we have a good idea of how many people are entering homelessness, how many are exiting homelessness, and how we can get somebody stably housed immediately when they come to us with housing concerns and needs. So when I talk about ending homelessness, I'm talking about the infrastructure. I'm talking about the manpower, and I'm talking about the funding so that nobody has to sleep in their car for even one night. They at least have a roof over their head, food in their stomach, and somebody to support them the next morning when they wake up and say, okay, let's take this adventure together. So I talked about our veteran benefit counselors a little bit. One of the interesting things about our veteran benefit counselors that most people are not aware of is we have a quality review team. And so when the VA adjudicates a claim, we have a 48-hour window that we get to look back and just have an actual review of what they adjudicated to determine whether or not there are any mistakes with the claim. And you would be surprised how many mistakes we find after the VA has adjudicated a claim. Chuck is quite aware of this process as well. But we're averaging about $150,000 a month in errors that we've seen from raters from the VA. And this is huge because you don't want to be in a position where you get rated, you're at 40%, but you should have been at 70%, and now you're having to go back trying to find new information, trying to get buddy statements, the whole rigmarole, when it all could have been taken care of right then and there. So that's an important component of what we do that you don't hear about most agencies or some of these claim sharks and those kind of things actually doing. So we talked about our cemeteries as well. There's some pictures you can see of Camp Navajo, of Marana, and then of Sierra Vista. Oh, and by the way, Sierra Vista, they just opened up a vet center down there, so that was fantastic. They've been working on that one for years. I was just down there last week, and it was really good to see that they finally got that open. Huge asset to the community. All right, and our Arizona State Veteran Home. So one of the things that people ask is, how can I help? This is one area where the community can really help our veterans, is in our Arizona State Veteran Homes. I would love to say that all of our veteran residents that are in our facilities have family and have the social support that they need to thrive in their environment, but the reality is a lot of them don't. There's a lot of single veterans that are there receiving care from us that don't have the social support from the community. Sure, they get it from us, but they see us every day. But when folks like you all come out and do a breakfast for our veterans, or you just come to sit and talk and swap stories, those things are all so meaningful to the veterans at our site. So if you're thinking about some volunteerism, some opportunities there, that's a great opportunity to get involved and to help. So some of the amenities that I did not talk about in our homes. So each of our homes has what we call our Cooties cinema. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Cooties. Yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, they're a really cool group, and they put together all of these cinemas within all of our homes that are really awesome. They come with these amazing sound systems, big screens. So Friday nights, we watch movies. On the weekend, we watch football. We pop popcorn. If the doctor says it's okay for them to have a beer, we crack open a beer with them, and we just have a good time. So we're really appreciative of the Cooties and the movie theaters that they provided. We have libraries. They have meditation rooms. We have zero gravity chairs where people can sit back and relax. Gift shops. We also have barber shops within our facilities. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. And so many more. And so if there's any opportunities for volunteerism and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We talked about the Military Family Relief Fund. If you've got somebody who's in distress, financial distress, and you think that this could potentially be a resource, reach out to us. I mean, the worst that we can tell you is no, but the best we can tell is absolutely we can help. But let's not shut that door, unnecessarily. So you can see here some of the things that I talked about pertaining to the Military Family Relief Fund and some eligibility requirements as well as some of the expensive. I would say this is not a fully inclusive list. So if you're referring back to these slides, don't just say, well, it didn't fit neatly within one of these bullet points. If you've got a question, please just reach out to us and we can figure out whether or not that's going to qualify. It's not a decision, honestly, that the department makes. We actually have committees, our pre and post 9/11 committee, that go through all of the applications to determine if they've met the eligibility so that we can fund that individual. We talked about our Transition in Place program. And we talked about our Veterans Donation Fund. That one's huge. So if you've got folks that don't have the veteran plates, encourage them. One, it's great just to see a lot of veteran plates, and you see a lot of them out here in Arizona, but it really does fantastic work. I mean, you would think, well, you only get $16 off of a license plate. I mean, how much money could that be at the course of the year? I have $4 million that's sitting in that account right now. So the answer is, it's a lot. It is a lot of money, and it's very, very helpful because it's my way of being able to give money to you all so that you can do the good work in the community, because frankly, I just don't have enough staff to do what I want to do. So we also have tuition assistance in our R.E.D diploma program. So the tuition assistance provides a scholarship to eligible individuals for any university or community college under the jurisdiction of the Arizona Board of Regents. The interested persons must qualify for admission to the institution, so it means you actually got to get into the school. You don't just get in because you have this tuition waiver. And then, so there's some criterion here. The unremarried spouse, that's one thing that I want to work on as far as legislation in the future. It's not going to be part of one of my legislative priorities this coming session. But I don't believe that a spouse who has lost a loved one, service member, should have to remain unmarried to be able to have this benefit. I feel that that's just, it's not in keeping with the spirit of what we were trying to do with this particular piece of legislation. So that's something that I'll be looking at here in the future. But you can see, if you're with the National Guard or received a Purple Heart, this is available for you. What they're going to look at is, do you have other benefits that you're potentially eligible for before you use the tuition assistance? So somebody who has, their GI Bill, somebody who has potentially vocational rehabilitation, other potential funding sources for their education, have those been exhausted? And if the answer is yes and you still qualify for tuition assistance, we'll push you through the finish line so you can finish your degree. The honorary diploma program, this one is hardly ever used, but if you know of anybody who would qualify, please let us know. It recognizes the contributions of honorably discharged veterans who are unable to complete their education of service during World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. And so if somebody was called up or for whatever reason they weren't able to complete their high school time in high school and get their diploma, we can get them an honorary diploma. And I realize that it may not have a ton of impact, but psychologically and morally, it has a huge impact for the folks that go through this program and get that honorary diploma. So we talked about our Arizona State Approving Agency. Not only do we audit, I know that seems to be one of the things that we're most known for, but we actually help schools. We help them become veteran supportive campuses. So we actually go in, we talk to their school certifying official, we look at the landscape of the campus and the atmosphere. How many veterans do you have? What do you have for your veterans? Do you have a safe space for your veterans? I can tell you, when I worked at Santa Monica College, one of the things that I noticed was that we had a lot of returning Iraq vets who were disabled. And while we had a disabled student program in a whole building where they could use adaptive technology and all of these different things for them to try to excel within the school, they didn't see themselves like their civilian peers that were disabled. And so they would not use those resources. And as a result of that, they weren't doing as well in school as they could have. So what I did is I put together our own disabled veteran student resource center where we had the same technology, but it was done in the midst of veterans who all had disabilities as a result of their combat service. And they excelled and they did much, much better. So it's important. Those are little things that our SAA can help some of these institutions with as they think out how they can best serve veterans in our state. And that ties into our Veteran Supportive Campus. We want to ensure that if you're accepting GI Bill money and veterans are on your campus, that you are a supportive campus. And by supportive, we mean, yeah, we support our vets. No, not that. What do you do to support your veterans? Not just words, but by action. Do you have that safe space for them? Do you have a veteran group? Do you have an active group of individuals that volunteer, that help? Those are things that we're looking at with these supportive campuses. They're really important. And what we saw is those cohorts, especially as they get out within their first or second year, they really need that sense of camaraderie with folks that have been through what they've been through in the last few years to be able to help them make that successful transition. One of the other things that when I was working at Santa Monica College that we looked at, and this is something that we're trying to roll out to our educational institutions out here, is there was a VetNet ally symbol, and it was very recognizable to anybody who's a veteran. It was camouflage. And if a professor went through a training that gave them an understanding of what it's like to be in the military, what combat means, we would make them wear the gear, hold an M16, all of this stuff so they can get the feel for it. They were then part of the VetNet Ally program. And so what would happen is, as students were looking for classes that they were going to choose, they would put that logo on the syllabus that they had. And so the veterans could go through and pick and say, okay, I know this professor took this class, this professor, and they could handpick their classes based off of the fact that they knew that that faculty individual had some training about what the experience of an active duty individual is, and then into their veteran status. So we talked about some of these programs here. I won't belabor them any longer. We talked about the Gold Star. Please, if you know folks that qualify for this, let us know. It's a somber moment, but it's really important for us to be able to honor the surviving spouse. And then we've got some contacts there. But I'll tell you what, one of them that I don't see is mine. That's kind of messed up. So let me tell you a little something about myself, guys. So I'm the first person in this position who's ever been an enlisted individual. I only served one tour, right? I did my 4.5 years, and I left the Marine Corps. So I don't have an illustrious career to talk about. I was never a part of the 06 Club or anything like that. But my experience in the Marine Corps is more common than not to that of those here in Arizona. Most of our veterans served one enlistment, and they got out, and they saw what it was like. I will tell you that my transition was a very interesting one, because there was absolutely no concern whatsoever about the transitioning military member. It was all about unit readiness. And when I told the Corps that it was my time to go back home, they said, go. And that was it. You threw your boots up on the flag, and then you just left. Things have changed quite a bit since then, but I can appreciate the fact that you kind of feel like you're just being thrown to the wolves. And while people were gaining some of those necessary social skills, and not just the whole drinking part in college and stuff like that, but living on your own, having to fend for yourself, all of those different things, we all understand and know that those are things that we didn't really experience when we were in the military because they were given to us, right? You always had chow, you always had a roof over your head, you had a bed to sleep in, you had the stuff you needed to be taken care of. And so that transition itself was also difficult. I say all of that because I want to be as accessible as I possibly can to all of you. So I'm going to give you my work cell number. My number is 602 316 8021. That's 602-316-8021. If you guys want to follow on what we're doing here within the department, please look me up on LinkedIn. I post pretty actively on LinkedIn, and you can see all the great stuff that we're doing throughout the state. I usually make 2 trips a week, and that's all over the state of Arizona. So it could be Page, it could be Tucson, it could be Safford, it could be Yuma. One of the things that I'm really pushing, and as was mentioned earlier with my bio, is creating communication amongst the entire state. And so one of the projects that we've launched is taking Starlink. Is everyone familiar with Starlink? So it's essentially satellite internet. And so what we've done is we've taken Starlink and we've given it out to the tribes within the state of Arizona. Currently, we have 16 of those that we've emplaced. We're working on getting the additional 34 that I have out to the most rural areas where they don't have cell phone coverage, where they don't have internet, to ensure that we can process and get the benefits to the veterans that are furthest out in the rural areas in our tribes. And we're doing some really fantastic work there. We're seeing claims being generated now as a process of that. Also part of that is transportation. And what I've consistently heard in some of those rural areas is that transportation is a huge barrier for the veterans, just getting to and from their VA appointments, getting to and from their IHS appointments. And so we've been purchasing vehicles for the tribes. We've been purchasing transportation vehicles for other veteran service organizations so that they can drive their veterans to and from their appointments. So again, really looking at where are our gaps in the services, how can we be creative to be able to plug those in, and how can we get the community engaged to be able to make this happen. And these are all ways that we can do it. I'm just a humble servant that happens to be in a position where I have a little bit of authority and a little bit of leverage. And I love being in this position now because people actually listen to me, which is cool. Before I was just a little E5 guy, you get away. But that's important because I need to hear from you all what's going on in your community so that we can best address your needs. Veteran suicide is real. It's very real here in the state of Arizona. We know that statistically speaking, if you live in a rural area, you're over the age of 55 and you have access to a firearm, your chances of suicide rates go up tremendously. And I'm not advocating that we get rid of firearms or any of that. We just need to be aware that this is one of the populations that are most affected in our state. So when you haven't heard from Charlie in a week and you're used to hearing from Charlie every week when you have coffee, it's time to reach out and do a buddy check. These are just simple things that we can do along the way to be better and to do better as providers and as folks who support our veterans here in the state of Arizona. With that, I'm going to shut my mouth. And do we have any questions or time for questions? Or?
All right. Yeah, John, you mentioned the Veterans Home in Flagstaff, and we only have 12 residents, I believe, and you're going to say, okay, we're looking to get 8 more, then goes through the approval process. But as we increase our patients, we're also going to have to increase staff. Is staffing still, the salary, the state salary, is that still a barrier that we're seeing here with some of these veterans' homes, especially in Flagstaff?
Yeah, so I would say that staffing is not just a situation that's unique to Flagstaff, it's all of our homes. And I will tell you, one of the reasons why it's become so difficult is because we have a decreased we have a nursing shortage, right? So we have fewer nurses that are available to us. A lot of those nurses can decide that they can go on contract with some of these headhunting agencies, and rather than get paid $45 an hour by the state, they can make $75 an hour working for a headhunting agency, and they're going to pay for their room and board. So, as any good Marine does, we always have a contingency plan, right? And so we do have our own contracts where we can bring in contracted staff to ensure that we are always at our staffing levels that are higher than what the Medicare or Medicaid requires. But to answer your question specifically, yes, staffing is still an issue in Flagstaff. We are currently, we just hired a new administrator up there, and she's right now working on hiring her director of nursing and assistant director of nursing. But we also have a regional team that can fill in at any time if there's a vacancy as well. So we do have built-in redundancy. I feel like things are really picking up. We're starting to get a lot more applications for veteran residents up there in Flagstaff. And if you've never been, check it out, please. It is such a beautiful building overlooking the mountains. And if you're lucky when you wake up and have your coffee in your morning, you'll see one of our little deer visitors hanging outside the windows there.
Hey, John, thanks for your presentation. It was incredible. I've heard you speak a few times, and I just wanted to see if you're willing to elaborate on it. What do you think is the, I've heard you allude to that homeless veterans, and we need placement now. We don't need to go through a bureaucratic process. So I just want to know if you're willing to elaborate, I guess, politically correctly here in public. What do you think is the problem with that system, the system, the HUD system, the VA system, the future? What do you think is the problem and the solution without getting too far into the weeds on it?
Sure, thank you. So to me, veterans will always be a nonpartisan issue. Veterans are veterans, and we need to take care of our veterans. I think part of the problem is just the eligibility process. I mean, you literally, to get somebody enrolled into like a grant per diem program, we're HUD funded. We're HUD funded. I'll just speak up. It takes time. And so one of the barriers that we've seen in the past is somebody shows up on a Friday at 4 o'clock. What do? You don't have time. You can't get them in a bed on time. You're not going to get reimbursed for it. But there are things that we can do. And that's what I'm trying to get people to see. Listen, I don't care. If you got to put somebody up in a Holiday Inn Friday through Sunday, and you go in and you check on them Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, right? And then you start preparing that housing plan. That to me is what's important. But I think what we've lost is that we've lost the touch point a lot of the times when we look at emergency housing. And what will happen is somebody will put somebody up into emergency housing and they don't talk to them for 3 or 4 days. And then when they go back to check on them, they're not there anymore. Well, of course they're not going to be there. There's nobody there to check on them. But that's an engagement point that we miss. But if somebody knows that you care and you show by action that you're going to be there the next morning to have some coffee and talk about what this is going to look like for the rest of your life, they're going to stay engaged in the much higher propensity for them to get enrolled into a program that's going to get them stably housed.
John? On behalf of this Red Friday group, we'd like to be able to present you with this certificate welcoming you to the Order of the Red. And this specifically states, we hereby recognize and commend John F. Scott II, Director, ADVS, for his honorable military service, veteran support initiatives, and support of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. Thank you. Absolutely. Hang tight 1 second. And in addition to that, we would like to present you with this Red Friday lapel pin. And I think that you will, by all means, understand the significance of this particular pin for our group, and we certainly hope that you will wear this with pride.
I will. Oh, he's being kind. He's putting the backings on. That's nice. The last time this happened, I got a sore collarbone for a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much so. We now have more of the Red Friday generic business cards that will be available as you exit the building. If you need a couple of those cards, feel free to pick them up. They were printed for you to use and distribute to prospective new members for our Red Friday program. Also, during our last 2 assemblies, both Sarah and Karen addressed our group and highlighted details of a joint Daughters of the American Revolution and Red Friday program launch of care packages for Arizona Army National Guard troops that are currently deployed to Germany. Thus far, our Red Friday group has made substantial donations in both cash and in care package items. If you've not done so already, our DAR representatives will be available here at the front table after we dismiss if you wish to drop off any further items from your shopping list or if you wish to donate cash. This will be the last day for that particular drive before they start packaging up the care packages and sending them out. I believe Sarah had something that she would like to mention.
I wasn't here last week, but I saw all the pictures of everything that everybody donated. And our chapter cannot thank you enough for everything that you have done for us. You're going to make a lot of service members happy. And we are going to start packing probably the end of this month. We're going to start packing the end of this month, and we'll probably get everything shipped out by the end of October. So thank you again for all your donations. And I couldn't think, it's heartwarming right here. Thank you so much.
And speaking of DAR, last week, Karen Confederec highlighted another initiative that the Apache Junction or Apache Trail chapter has launched called 100X. And this program is one of only a few programs that actually help fund the Apache Trail chapter of Daughters of the American Revolution. That chapter has done an enormous amount of, or contributed an enormous amount of support for this Red Friday program in a host of different ways. And I would strongly encourage that you support our DAR chapter with this very, very simple process, this 100X program. we sent out the very simple instructions for you to be able to access either on phone or your computer the particular surveys that are required by 100X. It takes 60 seconds or less to complete a survey of virtually any and every type of business imaginable. And all of the options for different types of businesses are identified there. All you have to do is find one, click on it, whether it's a McDonald's or if it's a Wells Fargo or if it's a Chase Bank or if it's Fidelity or if it's Michelin tires. It doesn't make any difference. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. It takes 60 seconds to complete a survey. And for every one of those surveys, the chapter earns $1.60. Each of you who wish to participate in that are allowed to conduct no more than 25 surveys per day and a maximum of 75 surveys. Now, last Friday when we left here, Nancy Fassbender went home, and on Friday evening, she completed 25 surveys. She got up Saturday morning with her cup of coffee, thinking about Karen in her red pajamas. She completed 25 more surveys, and on Sunday afternoon, she completed 25, making her 75 commitment. That 75 surveys that she completed earned $120 for this DAR chapter. Karen, you had something you wish to say?
Yes, I want to say thank you to everybody who has participated in 100X so far. Our campaign goes through November 4th, so we still have 3 weeks or so. And I just want to give you an update. We had 8 members, Red Friday members, sign up, which doesn't sound like a lot. However, they completed 243 surveys in total, which has earned our chapter $389. 8 people, $389. So it is exactly as easy as Dick said. And Nancy, yes, she maxed her surveys out at 75 on Sunday and emailed me and said, I did my 75. And I said, thank you so much. So I do have a little gift for Nancy. She was the first one who completed 75. This beautiful travel mug.
Superb. Superb.
Hey, you guys, it's easy. It really is. And I really and truly enjoy doing this. It's so simple. All you have to do is happy faces, unless you want to add something else to it. But yeah, it's so simple. And but the trouble was, when I got to number 65, I couldn't figure out who else I could do a survey on. So, and then I tell everybody, you know, I've been telling Dick and Hank and everything, hey, you're going to eat? Where are you going to go tonight? Go and go out to eat and fill out the survey after you eat. And I found out I ate out a lot.
Pretty simple. I would really encourage you to take a look at that. And again, at the end of this meeting, I'll be sending out a summary via email, and attached to that will be the instructions on how to access for 100X surveys. We have elected to participate in the Apache Junction Veterans Day Parade. It's called the All-American Apache Junction Veterans Day Parade. We are registered, and that parade will take place on Veterans Day, November 11, that morning in Apache Junction. We will have 2 red vehicles, one being a convertible that will be in the parade. And for those of you who wish to participate, we would certainly appreciate you volunteering to do so. This parade, compared to the Mesa Parade that we've participated in for the past 3 years, is a relatively short route. So if you intend to walk, it should not by any means be strenuous, but we will have the 2 vehicles if you are unable to walk that you'll be able to ride in. This, again, will be our group's 4th year to participate in a Vets Day Parade. first year in Apache Junction. I do need volunteers, and if you are willing to assist us on that particular morning, Hank will have a sign-up sheet as you exit. Please just give us your name and phone number, and we'll start to provide more detailed information about that particular function shortly. We'll all assemble and stage at Las Palmas Grand. We have a 24-passenger bus there that Ron Fagerlin will be driving to transport us to the parade staging area. Also, tomorrow, October 10, from 10 to 2, the nonprofit organization Ozero Vets will be conducting a wellness workshop at their headquarters in downtown Mesa. Nan Molina, a veterans advocate for the organization, has flyers available to anyone that wishes to attend that particular function. You can see Nan after the meeting if you want to learn more about the workshop. Also, I would like to ask, do any of you know a merchant marine? Do we have any merchant marines in here? We've got a merchant marine right back here in the back. Nancy Fassbender would like to speak to you. If you would come up here after the meeting and talk to Nancy, you're in a world of hurt, bro. Also, I would like to highlight that we have numerous guest speakers that are scheduled for the remainder of this year. I'm confident that you'll enjoy each of these speakers' presentations, so please plan to attend to support them. We have speakers scheduled for next Friday, October 17, October 31, November 7, November 14, November 21, December 5, and December 19. So we would appreciate your support there. Now, how many of you, Jim, will you get a count for me? How many of you have brought in orders for Red Friday shirts? Let me see your hands. Can you get a count? Okay, we have 78 in attendance today. Jim, that looks like 75 to me. You don't need to count. Last week, we introduced the new East Valley Red Friday Patriots custom imprinted shirt, and we distributed order forms to those of you that were interested in ordering these shirts. However, we've had a hitch in the get along, as we say in East Texas, and our printer, who was a brick and mortar company here in Apache Junction, is closing the doors, and they're opening up a bar. Now, we had a contingency to stick with them and wait for 30 or 60 days until they got that bar up and operative. I don't know if I want a drunk printer working on my shirts. So, I know that, hey, we've been without custom and printed shirts now for almost 7 years, so we can wait. But we now have 3 or 4 brick and mortar, in other words, solid businesses that do imprinting that we are going to personally visit, as we did with this particular company, and we're going to make sure we feel comfortable with what they can offer us and their competitiveness in pricing before we make a commitment. I hope that could be done as early, potentially, as next week. Maybe another couple of weeks before we launch that, but I'm sure within 30-day window, we'll have this particular program back on the table. Unfortunate situation, but hey, that's kind of par for the course for small business these days. It's tough to stay in business. They had a huge rent increase, and I can understand why they wanted to bail. So if you'll bear with us, hang on to those order forms. They might be identical to what you have right now when we contract with the new supplier, but hang on to them, hang on to your money. I would typically not ask you to hang on to your money, but in this case, I am. And then we'll get this train back on track. To our guests, thank you for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate your coming to join us, and we hope that you'll return and share in our camaraderie and our support for our Red Friday mission. Please know that you will always be welcome here. And as a final reminder, let's not overlook the importance of our Red Friday mission to keep our deployed warfighters in our thoughts and prayers, and to continue to demonstrate our support for these fine men and women. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.